All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with a new guest to me, and it's interesting because I feel like I've been talking to a lot of country artists lately. And one of the cool things about that is that there's so many country artists from outside of Winnipeg, and Winnipeg has always been sort of the central focus of the show, just because the population means there's such a huge amount of musicians sort of within the city limits. And it's cool because there's so much other stuff happening. Even if you go just an hour or two or three outside of Winnipeg, there's so many other music scenes and different styles and people doing different things, and so it's fun to talk to country singers because a lot of you are from outside of Winnipeg and are bringing different
Yeah.
influences and different sounds and different ideas. So I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and just give a bit of background about where you come from as an artist.
Yeah, so my name is Emma Peterson. I'm a country artist, originally from Winnipegosis, Manitoba. So that's actually like 4.5 hours northwest of Winnipeg, north of Riding Mountain National Park,
Okay.
and actually about 45 minutes north of where they host Dolphins Country Fest. So I grew up there, spent 18 years of my life, or more than, yeah, 18 years of my life there. And then now I'm currently in Brandon, Manitoba. So spent a lot of my life, and I feel like that's kind of what got me into country music was coming from a small rural community, because really all we did was listen to country music all the
Sure.
time.
Is that like, I mean, I know Winnipegosis is a very small place. Was there any kind of music scene to speak of there? I mean, were there people that you looked up to locally who were playing music and maybe inspired you a little bit back there?
Yes. Yeah, and, like, honestly, like, I would see them in, like, the newspaper or hear them through word of mouth. Because actually I grew up with no cell service.
Okay.
So, we had no like, it's so it like, my I feel like my growing up life was so much different than, say, like, coming from a city like Winnipeg or Brandon. I grew up with no cell service. It was all, like, dial-up internet, and if we went anywhere, we really did just have to leave a note on the counter for your parents. But there was actually a few artists, from my area who I looked up to, and I always would question them, be like, how are you doing this? How are you doing what you're doing? And two of those people would be Desiree Dorian and Nelson Little. So
Okay.
Nelson Little, his family actually originated from Winnipegosis as well, and Desiree is just about like a hop, skip, and a jump away in Dauphin. So I saw them doing their music stuff growing up, and always looked up to them, and they'd always come sing at like the local events in my area. So I feel like they were very influential for me to get into music.
For sure, yeah, and I've actually interviewed both of them in the past year or so. So
Yeah.
it's very cool to see that from such a small area, population wise, there's so many people doing this and doing it successfully too. It's kind of cool that I mean, how many people are in Winnipegosis?
600.
Right. So I mean,
Yeah.
and then you add the surrounding area, it's still a very small population, and the fact that there's
Yeah.
even three of you doing this now and playing big shows and getting your songs
Mhm.
heard, it's pretty cool.
It is, and I feel like there's just something about, being like, I mean, I live in a city now, but growing up rural, I find, like, you're with your it's either you do sports or music, and you're with your thoughts a lot, and I was not a sporty person, so I was kinda forced not forced, but what else was I gonna do? So I picked up a guitar and taught myself how to play. I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm doing this now." So,
Yeah, yeah. I guess that is one of the
yeah.
two options when you're out there. Yeah. What
Yeah.
Had you always been a musical person though? Like, was it always something that you were interested in, even as a kid, or did you just suddenly have
Oh,
like a revelation that this is something you wanted to do?
I think I annoyed my parents a lot with how much I loved music. I grew up like, my favorite singer growing up was Johnny Cash. Like, I was completely obsessed with him. Every year I'd ask for a CD, I'd want t-shirts, like insanely obsessed with Johnny Cash. And then of course that turned into Taylor Swift as time went on and as I grew older. But um yeah, like, it just I feel like I always was into music. I always was putting on performances. I actually did a lot of musical theater.
Oh, cool.
There's a vocal teacher who moved to our town. She married a farmer, moved to our town, and then started teaching there. So I think I was in grade 5 or 6. I was like 10, 11, and I started doing, vocal training. So I did a lot of classical and musical theater. So I was always putting on performances, always going into talent shows, always just singing for as many people as I can. And then finally, I just told my parents, "Can we just go buy a guitar and I'll teach myself how to play?" And they thought I was crazy because they're like, "How are you gonna teach yourself how to play guitar? We don't even have cell service. There's no guitar teacher." But we had a laptop and there was 2 videos on it that were, like, already installed.
Okay.
It was, like, simple guitar, how to teach yourself how to play guitar. There's 2 30-minute videos, and I sat in my room and I watched those videos over and over again for, like, 2 months, and then one day I came out and I was like, "Look at this, like, I can play," and it probably sounded so bad, but that was, like, really all we had there, so I just had to make use of it, and yeah.
Yeah, that's that's pretty cool because I think that the country music too, it's one of those genres where you can start out just by knowing how to play guitar and knowing how to tell a story, right? I mean, that's sort of the
Mhm.
basis of the genre is it's relatively simple musically compared to, jazz or something. But
Yeah.
as long as you have something to say and you know a few chords, you can sort of get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and I think it's very, like, country music it's all about it's all about the storytelling, like, what story are you telling, and I feel like I've always just been a fan of that and a fan of poetry. I always loved writing poems, and trying to find something, unique in just, like, the simple everyday life, and I think that's what country music is, so
Do you think having that rural background helps in terms of telling the type of stories that work well with country music?
I think so. Like, I think even in my writing, I still look back to my time growing up where I did. Of course, now I feel like my songwriting has slowly changed, but I feel like I always like look back to that and find stories of that, or even I'll go home. Actually, one of the songs that I wrote called Backroad Dreams, I wrote when I was driving home. I kind of turned the corner of the highway and started. There's just like one certain highway you drive, and when you're on that highway, you just know you're so close to home. And I wrote a song when I was driving that highway because it just like it brings back it's so nostalgic and brings back so many memories. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know anything different. So I really do think that it helps.
Sure,
So
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. How long have you been in Brandon for?
about 7 years now, actually.
Well, that's obviously got to be a big change. I mean, not just in the sense of it's a much larger place and there's more people, but there's also more opportunities as far as music. There's more people playing music. There's venues. There's shows and things like that. Has that been a big help for you as an artist, having some of those opportunities in Brandon?
Think so, and but honestly, like, I'm still driving to Winnipeg probably once or twice a week,
Okay,
and actually, like, if like, we're gonna be making the move to Winnipeg in the next month or so here, just because I find that in the past little while, music has just really picked up for me, and I'm really grateful for it, and I know right now Winnipeg is where the music scene is and where the people I'm writing with and producing with are there, so I kinda wanna be closer to that, um, rather than driving back and forth, but I think a big part of, what helped me branch from being rural to kinda, like, finding that music scene, and I think a majority of it is in Winnipeg, but there is a lot of us rural artists who are such close friends because I feel like we all relate to not having that access, that close
sure.
access to Winnipeg all the time, and it's hard sometimes because, I mean, I'm tired a lot of the time because I'm driving back and forth to the city, so it's nice, like, even like, I was talking about me and Desiree, we have actually cabins, like, cottages that on the lake that aren't far from each other, kinda
Oh, cool.
where our hometowns are, and we literally just, like, hop on a side by side or a quad and go over to someone else's cabin, and we're like, "Hey, let's write a song here now," or we drive the side by side to somewhere in the field and pick up our pen and paper and try to write something there, so it's just, like, nice, and it's so different than sometimes going to Winnipeg or going to Nashville
Yeah,
and writing in a room there. You just don't get that there.
yeah, I believe it for sure. What is how would you sort of define your sound? I mean, I know it's under the larger country umbrella, but you definitely have some pop influence in there. What do you call it? I mean, do you have sort of a term to describe what your subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre would be?
It's hard to say because, like, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now is country pop, definitely. And there is those pop and flex in it. But my root and my core is still in that traditional country. And I feel like if you listen, I released an EP last year called Just for the
Mhm.
Record. And if you listen to like Backroad Dreams, I feel like you can really hear that steel guitar and just those country, like those traditional country um sound in there that I grew up on, and I always wanna make sure I keep that in one way or another in my music, because 'cause I'm influenced by so much music, like, I don't just listen to country, I listen to pop music, and I listen to alternative, and I listen to folk, I have all of these different things, and I somehow try to put pieces of that in what I'm doing, and right now, definitely it is a bit well, it is a lot more pop than it is rootsy,
Sure.
but, I don't know, I try to find a way to kinda keep everything or have pieces of everything that I'm influenced by in my music.
No, that makes sense. Did you hear those things coming out when you write a song? Do you sort of recognize after the fact that, oh, this is influenced by whoever you were listening to at the time, or is it more subtle than that?
I don't know. Like I try not when I'm writing to think too much of like not or like who this would sound like or like what influences because I try to make it as much of me as I can.
Yeah.
But definitely when I think it's sometimes when I write a song I'm like, "Oh, I can hear this. I know what the sound I want this to be." But a lot of the times when I meet with someone it's, "Okay, this is the song and here are a few songs, pieces of songs that I think that I like or I like how this guitar sounds or I like how the drums are here." And
Okay.
I kind of put pieces of that. But the people I work with, I think are really good at just getting to know me as a person and like my true heart in my songs. So I feel like they know the kind of sounds that I like now. And aren't afraid to challenge me too and do things that are different and kind of outside of the box, which I think really help with the success of things is trying to find something that sounds similar but also very unique and something different. So when people listen to it, they're like, "Oh, this is cool. I haven't heard this before."
Yeah, yeah. Well, and especially if you're working with people who you've worked with, over a number of years, they're going to recognize sort of who you are as an artist and what your sound is, and then how they can branch out, help you branch out with
Yeah,
that sound and do
yeah,
take new directions.
yeah. I
Did you?
like, and I.
Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No,
No,
you go. You go.
I was going to say, just going back to sort of the area you're from, and you mentioned Country Fest. That's something that just happened. You played there again this year. What is that like going there and playing on that stage? When I'm sure you probably went a bunch of times when you were younger. And what is it like now to be there and be performing for that audience?
I remember, look, I wasn't allowed to go to Country Fest, I think, till I was like 16 or 17. My parents were pretty strict with making sure that I didn't go any younger, or at least went with a chaperone. But
Right, of course, yeah,
I remember going there and sitting there and not just watching the performer, but watching the band and watching everything and just making notes of like, oh, this is a cool cover they did, and or I like how they did this, and look at how they move. They connect with the audience, and I always found that it was almost like a field trip. Like I was learning so much going there where I feel like I mean everyone goes there to listen to the music, but I feel like it would just always felt like so much more to me. Like it was more than just sitting there and listening and enjoying the show. It was watching what everyone's doing and seeing all the moving parts and even watching the guys who come on stage to switch the guitars off. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait till one day that I can have two guitars during my show and someone come and switches them off for me. Like it feels really surreal this year to go play. And it almost feels like a hometown show because it's only
sure,
like 45 minutes away from my hometown. And Dolphins Country Fest has just been they are so supportive of Manitoba country artists and do their best to get us on those stages because they draw in thousands of people there,
yeah.
and put us in front of audiences that we would never be able to be in front of if we weren't there. So it is very surreal, and I feel like it's always something you just like dream of being able to play a festival of that caliber and that large. Yeah, it just like even when I was there, I said this feels like a hometown show just because you look out, I see my family, but then you also see so many country music fans that you're just so grateful to be in front of.
What is there more pressure because it's like a hometown show because you know that you're sort of this is your crowd that you're performing for?
Yes, and I feel like I put a lot of stress and pressure on my set list for Country Fest and my show for Country Fest. I wanted it to be perfect, and I knew the stage we were going to be on, and I knew that we would have people in front of us watching, and I wanted to do the best we absolutely could. So I did put a lot of pressure. I was so anxious before the show, more than I would be. Like we played Summer of the City in June, and that was so much fun. And I feel like I wasn't as nervous. I was okay. I don't know these people. I want to do such a good job, but if I fall or trip or do anything, at least I don't know them and they're not going to come bug me after. Or I don't know, maybe I'll be on some TikTok. But
You can avoid it for a
um,
while if you have to and not come
yeah,
back
I,
to
I
it. Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Whereas Country Fest, it's like everyone I know, and my family's really good at like I'll come off stage and be like, oh, like I screwed up this part, and like, oh, we didn't notice, and I feel like a lot of times it is true. Like the band and us, like we'll be the only ones who know if like something was a bit off, and no one else will notice it. But a lot more pressure, I think, for it, just especially Country Fest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. So you have a new single out and you just played Country Fest and your previous album got a lot of attention. You got some Manitoba Country Music Awards. What is it sort of is there pressure in that too, knowing that like you have this album that people like, they got this attention, they got this recognition, and now you have to put out new music. Is there pressure on sort of maintaining that level of quality or trying to exceed it?
Oh, there was so much pressure. So, Got It Back was actually like a song that was pitched to me from some great writers in Nashville. And
Okay.
I was pitched this song a year and a half ago. And I'm very intentional. I mean, all artists are very intentional with their music. And I really had to sit on it because I'm a singer-songwriter at heart. I always feel like, okay, I need to be the one writing the song. I need to be the one coming up with
Yeah.
the concept. And so I was pitched this song, and it took me so long to it took me a year to get the confidence or get the momentum to be like, "Okay, I think this is good enough," because just for the record, went over so well for me in the album, like, it won album of the year at Manitoba
Yeah.
Country Music Awards. So then I'm like, how do I go on after that?" Like, and I wanna make sure that I'm gonna bring something to the table that people are gonna like and think it's different enough from what I did before, because I definitely, just for the record, that album, it was like just like kind of a capsule of like probably when I like, I mean, I'm 24 now, but from 18 to 23, that was like those 5 years, the songs that it was a small album, but it kind of encapsulated my time then, and I really wanted this next stuff to separate from that and be different, but also something people like. So it took me a long time to say, "Yes, okay, I'll record this song," and, get that momentum going, and then after releasing it, I was just praying that it would work out, because you just never know, like, when you release a song out there, you just hope that someone's gonna connect with it or someone's gonna like it, and you get a good review on it, because it just you just never know.
Well, it's out of your hands, right? I mean, you can spend all
Yeah.
the time you want on it, and once it's out there, you have no control over how anyone's gonna react to it.
Well, you can spend all the time and all the money investing in a good track, but yeah, if no one likes it, then there's nothing you can do, so you could just only hope that it works out.
Has it been a positive response so far?
It's been such a good response, like, I mean, like I said, I was really nervous about it and I wasn't sure, but I've never, like, had a response like this to a song before, and I thought last year, I was like, "Okay, this song, just for the record, that changed everything for me," but Got It Back this year has really, like, this past month, I feel like I've just been, like, spinning in
Cool.
circles trying to keep my head above water because it just has been so great.
Is this, sort of a lead up to making another album, or are you just focusing on singles at this point?
I think now, like, I've been doing so much writing in this past year, and right now I'm just trying to focus on writing for the
Yeah.
next little bit. Like, I do have some more, like, songs and demos that we're working out right now to figure out what we're gonna do next. I definitely think I'm an album person, like, I feel like the songs that I do all need to make sense and cohesively kinda go together and connect with me in some way, and kind of make sense. Like, I want everything to kind of work out in kind of chunks. So I think right now I'm in the stage of figuring out what that is, and
Okay.
writing as much as I can so that I ensure that the songs that I release are going to be the best ones, I hope.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I like what you said about, wanting it to be cohesive, because I think that that's because of the way people consume music nowadays, that's something that's not necessarily it's something that people think about. I mean, I'm definitely old and set in my ways, and I pretty much entirely listen to physical music. So it's nice to hear that people are focusing on writing music for an album, because often someone will write a song and it'll be just intended to be a throwaway single without any kind of deeper, value or meaning. And that's fine. It obviously is a way that the music works these days. But it's nice to hear that that there's more thought to it than that, and more sort of thinking about how it will interact with the whole piece.
Yeah, and I got, like, really good advice from someone, a few years ago when I was writing, and, he told me, like, "You'll never fool your audience, like, they'll always know if it's true and it comes from your heart," and I think that's why I try to be very intentional, because I always wanna make sure everything that I release is from my heart, or just something I connect with and something I believe in, because I think that, if I don't believe in it, no one else is, so I need to make sure when I'm releasing that I believe that it's gonna be good and that people will connect with it, so
Yeah, otherwise they're going to see right through it and realize that it's
yeah,
not. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
What is the best way at this point for someone to find your music? I mean, I know you have the single that just came out. You have your previous album. Where should someone go online if they want to a find your music, or b find out about upcoming shows and things like that?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, it's www.emmapetersonmusic.com. Pretty much all social media platforms, I'm Emma Peterson Music, so, wherever you go, either if you're on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or you just like to go straight to the website, I usually try to post every day and just keep everyone in the loop. And I love, if you want to know where to find me and you can't find it on my website, just send me a DM because I love connecting with people that way too. So yeah, just Emma Peterson music, kind of wherever you go.
Cool, cool. And then, do you have anything coming up in the relatively near future? I mean, the good thing about this being a podcast, someone could hear it the day it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now. And by then, maybe you have all kinds of stuff happening. But in the next few months, from when we're recording this, is there anything exciting coming up?
Yeah, so actually at the end of the month, I'm not sure when this podcast will come out, but
This will come out end of the week, end of this week. So
oh, okay. So something really cool. I actually haven't announced this yet. I'll be announcing it in the next couple days. So it might be announced by the time this is out. I'm singing at the Canada Life Center for the World Police and Fire Games. It's like
okay,
kind of like an Olympic type of thing where people come from all over the world. So I'm singing at their grand ceremony, which will be super fun. It'll be my first time singing in an arena, so that should be fun and exciting. And then so that's on June 28th, and then June 29th, we're at Sunflower Festival in Altona. So
oh, right on.
we'll be playing, headlining that festival. So that'll be fun. And then more stuff to come in the next couple months too. Like September, I'm heading to the CCMAs. So we'll be doing showcasing there. So always keeping busy.
Awesome, awesome.